If you do tourist rentals in Spain or you're planning to do so, you should know that from July the 1st, 2025, there's a new obligation for property owners. Basically, in addition to the tourist rental license that you should have in order, from now on you will need a registration number. This number will allow you to list your property on platforms such as Airbnb and Booking. I actually made a video a few months ago that got massive support and lots of people contacted me to help them request this number because, as you will see, it's not so easy to get. So I thought, now that the obligation came into force, that it's a good moment to do a video answering to the most frequent asked questions about the registration number. If you need help requesting this number, feel free to contact us. You can also find our email in the description of the video and in the comments. And with no hesitation, let's go and ask these questions. First, what documents do you need to submit the request for the registration number? First, a nota simple. This is the official summary from the property registry of the property or properties you want to register. If you don't have this document, the property's purchase deed or escritura de compraventa will also be acceptable. Second, the certificate proving that you've been issued a tourist license. This certificate should contain all relevant details required for the registration. And third, a valid digital certificate to perform the registration online on your behalf, or a special notarized power of attorney allowing us to represent you officially in this process. Besides these documents, some land registries might also ask for additional documents, and I want you to pay attention to this particular one, and it's the Declaración Responsable. Basically, this is a document that you're seeing now in screen that basically you're confirming that you're complying with all the regulations regarding tourist rental activities in Spain, specifically in your region. Why do I say that you need this particular document? First, because you might need it in order to submit the registration number application, and second, because in the short-term future, some kind of police or people working for the state might come to your apartment and make sure that you comply with the regulations that you confirmed that you were going to do when signing these documents. So this is something that I've seen that many people are overlooking, but it's my personal advice. If I have my own website or use a third-party website to advertise my rental property, do I need to get the new registration number? I have good news for you. In this case, you don't need the registration number. So to make it clear, if your website or third-party website is only advertising and people cannot directly book or pay there, you're safe because you don't need the registration number. But if you use online booking platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com, or any other sites that handles bookings and processes payments directly through the platform, then yes, you must have a registration number. If I don't have the registration number by July the 1st, 2025, can platforms like Airbnb or Booking remove my listing or cancel my reservations? I'm recording this video at the beginning of July, and the truth is that some people have been calling me because yes, their properties have been removed from Booking and Airbnb. So the logical answer is yes. Maybe yours haven't been yet, but the truth is that this new obligation came into force from July the 1st, 2025. But I want to point out one thing. The reservations that you made before July the 1st won't be affected. So if the whole summer you already have rented out, don't worry, because you don't need the registration number for those bookings that were made before July the 1st. If I rent my property out for more than 10 days at a time, do I still need the new registration number? This is a really important question, especially if your property is located in Valencia or Alicante, where we have our offices. By the way, next week I'll be posting a video specifically for tourist rentals in Valencia and Alicante. So if you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to the video. But answering to your question, first of all, let me tell you why this is an important question, because in Valencia, there's a distinction. Basically, if you rent a property for more than 10 days, it's not considered tourist use, but if you rent it for less than 10 days, it's considered for tourist use. So the logic will tell you, okay, I'm just renting my property for 11 days or more, so do I need this registration number number, and the answer is yes. The classifications of rentals as tourist or non-tourist is decided by each region, but the new registration number is a national level registration and it applies broadly to all short-term rentals, regardless of regional definitions. Why should you get your registration number as soon as possible? If you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you've probably noticed that I repeatedly recommend applying for the registration number as soon as possible. The reason for this is straightforward. Even if you already have your official tourist license, there is a serious risk that you could find yourself unable to list your property on popular platforms such as Airbnb or Booking.com. In practice, not being able to list your property on these platforms is essentially the same as losing your license, because you lose your main way of getting guests. Why am I saying this? Let's say that your property is part of a community of property owners, which will be most of your cases. In case you have a single villa, you don't have to worry about this potential obstacle. But if your community of property owners votes to ban holiday rentals and they are clever enough to register this prohibition in the land registry, this is in the laws of the community, when you are going to request the registration number, the land registry is going to reject it because there was first the prohibition, then your request for getting the registration number. Yes, I know you have your rental license, so in theory you would have to be able to get the registration number, but this is one of the I'm not sure if I should call it a trap or like these things that people don't know, but of course this can end up in court. You have your rights, but you have to claim for them. This is going to take time. So this is basically why I beg you, in case you want to keep renting your property for tourist reasons, that you request it as soon as possible. Does the registration number expire? Since this regulation is very recent, there are still some details that aren't completely clear yet. Personally, I think it's likely you will need to renew or update your registration information every 12 months. However, there's something important I want to clarify because I myself misunderstood this point a few months ago. The registration number itself doesn't expire, meaning that once you have got it, there's no way that if the community of property owners votes to ban vacation rentals and you have to renew it next year, you're going to be able to renew it because you got it before the prohibition was registered. This is a very important point that I want you to understand, so let's keep moving. Do I need the registration number if I rent my property only once a year or just a few days a year? Yes. Can I be penalized if I advertise my short-term rental without the new registration number? The law doesn't establish any penalties, so you shouldn't worry about that. The only thing that could happen is that either if you had the property on an online platform that they tell you, okay, we have to remove it until you get the registration number, or if you want to list your property on online platforms that they require this registration number as an obligatory number, that if you don't do it, you cannot rent it. So no, you're not going to get fined for it. Does the new registration number replace the regional registration number? No, your regional registration number will remain fully active and valid. This is something very important for you to understand. One thing are the regional regulations for tourist rentals. Valencia, for example, distinguish if you rent it for less than 10 days or more than 10 days. In Andalusia and Canary Islands, this is completely different, but this is something, the new registration number, that works at the national level. It works through the land registry, so it's completely different. Actually, in order to get the new registration number, you need the regional registration number. So both are valid. If I want to request the new registration number for non-tourist seasonal rentals, what documentation do I need to include in my application? The first thing to answer is, what is exactly a non-tourist short-term rental? Because most of you, I would say 95% of you, don't work under this kind of rental. This is basically when you rent your property to students, doctors, or people that come to Spain for work reasons under a certain period of time. It's usually 6 or 9 or for sure less than 12 months. You also need to get the short-term rental, but the good thing about it is that you don't need any extra documentation from regional or municipal authorities. And this is important because now I'm remembering that an American woman called me regarding this, and she told me, no, but I'm against your Airbnb and booking. I don't use these platforms, but it's still the same. The only thing is that you don't need that much of a documentation, which will make the process much easier. If I want a professional, such as a lawyer or a gestor, to obtain the new registration number on my behalf, what documents or authorizations do they need? First, your own digital certificate, along with explicit authorization for us to use it specifically for obtaining your registration number. It's very important that the digital certificate provided belongs directly to the property owner. Later, we must also activate your bank account on the official property registry website, and the bank account holder must match exactly with the digital certificate's holder. To avoid any potential issues or delays with the property registry, we strongly recommend preparing a special notarized power of attorney. This power of attorney explicitly authorizes us or your chosen gestor to complete the registration number on your behalf. We can arrange this power of attorney easily if you're located near our offices. This is Moraira and Denia in the province of Alicante. But don't worry, because if you are in another region of Spain or even in another country, we can also work with your closest notary to prepare this power of attorney. And well, this is the, let's say, the most secure way that the land registry authorizes us to do it on your behalf. It depends a lot on the property registry, so it also depends on how much of a hurry you are, or if you want to, okay, let's try with an authorization. If we are required a power of attorney, we will eventually do it. This is up to you. How can I apply for the registration number? Well, there are two possible methods. The first of them is doing it online. This is the one that I recommend. It's through the website of Registradores de la Propiedad. This is the land registry. And as I said in the previous video that I made a few weeks ago, this is a very serious institution in Spain, so this is good news. But you can also go in person to your specific property registry. How do you know which one is your property registry? Well, you should know it the moment you bought your house. Your lawyer should have told you, okay, this is the property registry office. You should come when you need to do something with them. But if not, just come to us, because we can find out that easily and very quickly. But you have to go specifically to that one. It doesn't work like, okay, I'm in another region of Spain or I'm in another town and I would just go to another one. No, you have to go to the one that belongs your property. How much does the new registration number cost? The official registry fees for getting the registration number is 27 euros plus VAT. This is what the administration, the land registry, will charge you if you want to do it for yourselves. But now that we are at this point, I think it's a good moment also to tell you our prices, because if you watch our previous video that I made 3 months ago, I gave a price that then I realized it was too low, because the documentation that we need to gather, the follow-up, because once you apply for it, you get a provisional number for 10-15 days, and once they reviewed everything, and believe me, they review everything, they tell you if you get your final registration number. This requires more work than we initially thought, so our current price for us to handle your new registration number is 200 euros plus VAT. If you're interested, don't hesitate to contact us. We have worked on more than 60 of these numbers. We know the typical mistakes that you do, because most of you come to us once you have tried to do it and you have made some mistakes, which are completely understandable. It's actually a quite difficult process to do. But yes, this is our price, so let's keep moving. What is the registration number granting process? Once you have submitted the application, the property registrar has two options. They can immediately grant a provisional registration number, which will later become definitive after verification of documents, or they can pause your application, giving you 7 days to provide any missing documents or correct any issues. After that comes the formal verification of documents. You can either get a positive result, your provisional registration number becomes definitive, or your registration application is denied. If this happens, you can appeal this decision to the Dirección General de Seguridad y Fe Pública. I actually recommend you not doing this because it's going to take you a long time. Unless it's something that you have nothing to lose, it's much better just to do a reapplication, because I use this question to answer another question. Yes, you may reapply for this registration number as many times as you want. How long does it take for the property registry to grant me the provisional and definitive registration number? When you apply, El Colegio de Registradores will issue a provisional number immediately. So, after reviewing your documents, if everything is correct, they'll inform you that your provisional number is now definitive, and the maximum period allowed for granting a definitive registration number is 15 days from the date of your application. If I acquire a property that already has a registration number, or if I change managers, do I need to apply for a new registration number? If you become the new owner or manager of a property that already has a registration number, you don't need to do anything until July 1st, 2026. As I said, registration number doesn't expire, but every 12 months you have the obligation to submit to the authorities all the information related to this registration number. So once this period comes, you have to modify this information, and this will be the moment to do it. So July 1st, 2026. Under what circumstances can I lose my registration number? First, if you no longer meet the original registry requirements. Second, if you voluntarily request the cancellation of your registration number. Third, if your annual activity report reveals misuse or incorrect use of your registration number. And fourth, if a public authority requests cancellation based on an official resolution. Of course, if your registration number is revoked, your listings will also be removed from platforms like Airbnb or Booking. Can I publish my listing with a provisional registration number, or must I wait until receiving the definitive registration number? And the truth is that the law does not prohibit using the provisional registration number until you receive the definitive. Consequently, you can publish your listing on online reservation platforms using the provisional registration number. If I have tourist accommodation rented by rooms, how many listings should I have? I'll make it very easy. Each room needs its own registration number and its own listing. So, 3 rooms, 3 registration numbers, and 3 different listings. If I plan to offer both tourist and seasonal rents simultaneously, can I use the same registration number? No, according to the law, you will need 2 different registration numbers, one for short-term rentals and the other one for so I don't know how to say it exactly in English, but it's basically the rentals that are specifically thought for doctors or professionals who come to Spain for less than 6 or 9 months. Alright, I hope the video was useful for you and answered most of your questions. However, one thing that I learned from doing these applications is that each case, each property has its own story. There are many documents missing sometimes, or if you have particular questions, you can write them in comments, and if you want a tailored service to see how we can work your application, or if we need to correct something before requesting this number, feel free to contact us. What else can I say? If you enjoyed the video, I hope you subscribe. You can also share it with people that might be also interested, and I'm going to be doing videos about tourist rentals and other questions related to this that are going to be very interesting for you. This said, I'll see you in future videos. Bye bye!